Hey there, welcome back. So buck and boost converters are one of the most common circuits used in DC to DC conversions. Basically, these type of circuits are found in almost every piece of electronic circuit that you can think of, right? Electronic equipment for that matter that you can think of. From cell phones, computers, cell phone chargers, computer chargers, or any other chargers you can think of, inverters, LED drivers, you name it, you're gonna find these type of combination, buck boost, flyback, and all type of other versions of these converters. This is why in this quick snippet tutorial, I'm going to refresh your mind and myself as well on how a simple DC to DC converter like this one operate. Explain in the most simplest possible way. So bear with me as we're going to go through this simple example. Obviously, this is a simulation, but the case study here will apply even in a physical circuit. You only then have to deal with tolerances and other parameters. Obviously, we're not dealing with feedback here for stability on the output and consistency, but just the concept of a boost converter, how it works. Great stuff. Okay, now what is going on here from the perspective of these circuits functionality? Now, to quickly illustrate before we go into the a simple example how to design, how to get to the 5 volt from the design perspective, let's just explain briefly how these circuits work. Okay, I'm going to be very brief. To do that, I'm gonna draw a simple circuit here. Okay, so I've got my inductor, I have a node here, and I have a switch here. Okay, and over here I've got a diode, and there's another node here, and I've got a capacitor here, and here we've got our load. Now this load can be anything that we want to be driven by a higher voltage. Okay, let's say this is a voltage source. Okay, so which means a plus, minus, and it's a 2.5 volt, and this is a ground point, and this is our ground. Okay, now this inductor is an energy storage device, and this one is also an energy storage device. This one store energy in a form of static charge. Okay, and this one here store energy in a form of electromagnetic field or EMF. Now what is going to happen? This circuit is going to operate in 2 modes. One mode when the switch will be on, the other mode when the switch will be off. Okay, so when the switch is on, let's look at it as 2 action. It's a signal we're sending to the switch here. So that signal is going to have this form 1, 0. A 1 being a 5 volt, a 0 being obviously a 0 volt digital signal. And here is the period. Okay, now we're going to talk about the on-off duties in a moment. So what is going on here, the moment we close the switch, there will be a high current that will flow this way. That high current is going to flow this way because the inductor have a low series resistance, also known as DCR. Now that DCR is going to provide the shortest path to ground this way, and the switch have a resistance of basically 0. Okay, now because the high current will flow this way, almost nothing, very little current will flow this way, and the high current here is going to create a magnetic field across this inductor. Now when we open the switch, what happened when we open the switch? This is where the magic starts. Since there was a magnetic field here, as soon as we open the switch, there is no more current going to flow. It stops, and that electromagnetic field is going to start to collapse, right? Because nothing is holding it anymore. It's going to start to collapse. The action of collapsing is going to create what is known as a back EMF. An electromotive force is going to be created that's going to flow in this direction. So we're going to have minus here and plus here, and all of a sudden this become a voltage source, and this is also a voltage source. They are now in series. 2 voltage sources in series are going to add up will give a higher voltage. So which means depending on how much voltage will be stored here based on how long this switch is going to stay on, and the EMF build that here based on the inductor value and so forth, because we know what is the value of the inductor, right? Now, we're not going to go through that detail now. This is just a very quick illustration. So automatically we're going to have a higher voltage here. Let's say if it's also charged to 2.5 volt. That means 2.5 plus 2.5, we're going to have a 5 volt here. And that 5 volt is going to flow here. Now let's ignore that this is a perfect switch. And there won't be a voltage drop. The whole 5 volt is going to be here. Okay? That whole 5 volt is going to be here, and then it's going to charge this capacitor to 5 volt. It will hold it to 5 volt. Now, since that is happening when the switch open, automatically charges, and this capacitor will charge, and it will start to supply the load automatically because the load is also connected. So, which means at this same rate, this capacitor will start to deplete, right? And just before the capacitor get to 0, we're going to close the switch again, and we're going to charge this inductor again. We're going to open it again, and it's going to release that energy again with the voltage source, and it's going to try to maintain this point here. This node here is going to try to maintain it at 5 volt. Now, when the switch is closed at a second period, assuming we start with initial charge with no voltage on the capacitor, so which means the second time around there will be some voltage here. So when we close the switch, to prevent this capacitor from discharging this way to only discharge this way to the load, we place this diode here. So this diode here is to prevent the charge on the capacitor flowing back this way to discharge through this low path to ground here when the switch is closed. Okay, that's what the diode is here, to block that. So the current will only flow when the switch open, and that is to add this field here with this voltage to charge this capacitor and maintain it at 5 volt. So now, how does the higher boost happen? The rate in which we are closing the switch on off. Now remember, if we close this switch, we charge it up, we open it, we close it immediately just before the field can collapse completely. It means we're going to maintain it at a specific level. So which means the higher the rate in which we're closing the switch, the higher we are boosting, because we're going to keep the field here at a specific voltage. Now, if we keep it off too long, it's going to collapse completely. This voltage here is going to fall probably close to 2.5. That means we basically almost not boosting. So we must keep the constant on off on off on off. Now you can't do it manually. That's why we bring in a PWM signal. That's going to create a high frequency signal. I'm not going to go through all the detail in there. Now in a specific design, in a design where everything is important, you don't want to drop voltage here. You also don't want to drop voltage on the switch. You want to create heat here when the switch is closed with a high current from the inductor. You want to dissipate as little as possible power. So which means you're going to choose a switch with a very low RDS on. That means the MOSFET here must have a MOSFET with a very low RDS on. Please watch my tutorial where I talk about RDS on and MOSFET and so on. Okay? And at the same time, when the switch is open, the current flow this way, you choose a diode with a very low voltage drop. Now we know that silicon diode will have about 0.7 volt, and Schottky diode will have like 0.3 volt. So now if you driving 2 amps here, and quickly you can see that this one here is going to give you 1.4 volt drop. That's too much. So if you want to boost at 5 volt and you're dropping 1.4 volt here, you basically out. And if you want to boost at 5 volt, you're also dropping 0.6. It's also a problem. That means you need to boost it to 6 and drop 0.6 and get the 5 volt. So that's how the math become very complicated. And also all these drops are going to create power losses to your circuit, and then you result with the efficiency. That's why they want to have an efficiency of perfection 100%. It will be somewhere around 80% or more, or less, or good one will have maybe 90% efficiency. So that is the bottom line of the story here. Now I'm going to stop this here. Part 2, we're going to go through very minimal calculations to see how we can boost the 2.5 to 5 volt by choosing the correct inductor value, because as you saw when I ran this here, we're not getting a 5 volt, we're getting a 9 point something here. Okay, now we need to select these values here, the correct switching frequency, the correct duty cycle, and the correct capacitor value, correct inductor value, and also the power across the load that will determine the energy transfer, because remember we still need to maintain the conservations of energy here. So if we take 5 watt on the input, we must transfer 5 watt on the output. That means if we're transferring the output become 9 volt like here, that means the current must drop. The current has to drop so that we can maintain the 5 watt that was sent from the input. Now here, if you put a load that's going to consume more current than the input, that means you're not going to have the 5 watt that's being sent here. That means your boost circuit is going to collapse. Things are going to fall apart. But now let's leave that for part 2 of this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. If you found it useful, please make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to CMTEQ channel. That will be highly appreciated.